Well, I was born just before the Second World War. I spent my life in London during the Blitz, and we were supply dropping and paratrooping the SAS into the jungle, and it was really all exciting, and you know. And I returned back to the gloomy England, and I told my parents, I said, well, I don't like this, I want to emigrate, and that upset them. And finally, in 1965, I answered an ad to go out to Detroit, Michigan as an engineer. I answered an ad in the Detroit Free Press for a job to come down to Covina, California. So I came down to Southern California, and basically that was it. So once here, you never leave except when you find the Lord and He calls you into the missionary field, which He did later on in my life. I found that with all this money, I had 3 cars, a house in Laguna, and a nice going business, and I found I had no peace inside, and it really shocked me, because I thought money was the answer to everything, like most people do,
No turning back. No turning back.
Proverbs chapter 6, and just open it up, and that's where I opened. I started to read 6 things does the Lord hate, yea, 7 are an abomination to Him, and I found that most of these things were the things that I was good at, and I was just shocked. I put the Bible down because I figured that God hates me in that, and it was a little while later I picked it up and I started in Matthew chapter 1, and when I got through to the Sermon on the Mount, I realized then that God didn't hate me, He loved me, because that's what He said in John chapter 3 verse 16. But I realized that He didn't hate me, but He hated the things that I was doing and the way my heart was. And I knew that I had to make a change. In the office of my business in 1976, I got on my knees and I asked God to forgive me of my sins and invited Jesus to come into my heart. And I felt clean. I was just on fire and glowing for the Lord, and it was I was just so thrilled. And one day the Lord said to me, do you love me enough to give up everything and come and follow me? A guy from Africa came in all dressed in blue, and he came up and he started speaking about starting chapels in Nigeria. So the next thing I realized, I'm up at the back and I'm listening to all this stuff's coming out my mouth. I'm saying, I'll come over and I'll work with you for 3 years. I'll give you a commitment for 3 years. So then I followed him out to Nigeria. God used me there, and I helped to run the church. And the Lord told me to come back to the States. So I went there and I worked there, and until 1998, in July, I went out to Ghana, to a place called Koforidua, which is about 50 miles inland from Accra, the capital. There was a lady was in the church. She had had a stroke and she's as stiff as a board. Then I quoted Romans 8:1 to her, that there's no condemnation for those who are in Christ, and she was just healed and walked away from it. Yeah.
You're about, as we record this, you're about to return to Ghana. Just in a few seconds, how can people pray for you?
Pray God will give me wisdom over dealing with the spirits over there, and give me the discernment of spirits to be able to fight against the spirits, because even the Lord's already shown me that I'm going to fight against 3 territorial spirits when I go back over there.
To follow Jesus, I have decided. To follow Jesus, I have decided. To follow Jesus, no turning back, no turning back, no turning back, no turning back.
And it's the same in the spiritual warfare that we're in. That we have to train, and we have an enemy, and he is gonna be coming against us. The bigger we get, the more important important the work that God calls us to do, the more the enemy's going to come against us. So God has to prepare us beforehand so that when we're in it, we are able to God doesn't put us in battles to lose. He puts us in battles to win and bring glory to Jesus.